Hollow Creek, a town draped in shadows, shrouded in secrets. Ancient oaks, gnarled and twisted, lined the streets, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Beneath their boughs, whispers danced on the wind, carrying tales of a past best left undisturbed. For generations the townsfolk had spoken of a game whispered to exist in the spaces between reality and nightmare. They called it the Whispering Game. Emily, Jake, Chloe, and Michael, 4 friends, each with their own secrets and dreams, yet bound together by an unbreakable bond. They had known each other since childhood, their lives intertwined in ways that only they could understand. 4 friends, bound by the recklessness of youth, dared to tempt fate. They were always seeking the next thrill, the next adventure that would set their hearts racing and their spirits soaring. Tonight was no different, but the stakes were higher than ever before. Drawn to the allure of the unknown, they gathered in the heart of Hollow Creek Cemetery. The cemetery was a place of legends and whispered tales, a place where the past seemed to linger in the air, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to seek it out.
A circle of flickering candlelight illuminated their faces, casting long shadows that danced and swayed with the gentle breeze. The candles were their only source of light, their small flames fighting against the encroaching darkness, their eyes bright with anticipation and a flicker of fear. Each of them felt the weight of the moment, the gravity of what they were about to do. It was a mixture of excitement and dread, a feeling that made their hearts pound in their chests.
The air hung heavy with unspoken truths and the weight of generations past. The cemetery was more than just a resting place for the dead. It was a repository of stories, of lives lived and lost, of secrets buried deep within the earth.
They joined hands, forming a circle that connected them not just physically but spiritually. It was a gesture of unity, of solidarity, a way to show that they were in this together, no matter what might come. Their voices uniting in the ancient rhyme that would awaken the game. The words were old, passed down through generations, a chant that held power and mystery. As they spoke, the air seemed to vibrate with energy, the very ground beneath them humming with anticipation.
The ritual had begun, and there was no turning back. They could feel the presence of something otherworldly, something that had been waiting for this moment. The circle of secrets was now complete, and the game was about to begin.
The wind picked up, swirling around them, carrying with it a coldness that chilled them to the bone. It was as if the very essence of the night had come alive, wrapping its icy tendrils around their bodies, seeping into their souls. The howling wind seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of sorrow and despair that had long been forgotten. Each gust was a reminder of the darkness that lay ahead, a prelude to the horrors they were about to face. The candles sputtered, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed around them. The flickering flames seemed to be alive, their movements erratic and unpredictable. Each shadow that was cast on the walls seemed to take on a life of its own, twisting and contorting into shapes that defied logic. The room was filled with an eerie glow, the light from the candles barely penetrating the thick darkness that surrounded them. It was as if the shadows themselves were mocking them, playing a sinister game of hide and seek.
Emily gasped, her eyes widening in terror. She could feel her heart racing, each beat echoing in her ears like a drum. The fear was palpable, a tangible force that seemed to grip her very being. She tried to steady her breathing, but the air felt thick and heavy, as if it was filled with the weight of 1,000 unspoken fears. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what she was seeing, but the more she tried to understand, the more elusive the truth became. A figure flickered at the edge of their circle, a wisp of smoke given form. It was barely visible, a mere suggestion of a presence, but its impact was undeniable. The figure seemed to shift and change, its form never quite solidifying, always on the verge of disappearing. It was as if it was caught between two worlds, a ghostly apparition that defied the laws of reality. The air around it seemed to shimmer, distorting the space and creating an otherworldly aura that sent shivers down their spines. It reached out, a skeletal hand beckoning, and whispered a single word: fear. The word seemed to hang in the air, echoing in their minds and amplifying their terror. It was a command, a promise, and a curse all rolled into one. The hand seemed to stretch out impossibly long, its bony fingers curling and uncurling as if it was trying to grasp something just out of reach. The whisper was barely audible, but its impact was profound, sending a chill down their spines and making their blood run cold. The vision vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Emily trembling, her heart pounding against her ribs. The game had begun. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, the realization that they were now part of something much larger and more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The room seemed to close in around her, the walls pressing in and the darkness growing thicker. She knew that they had crossed a threshold, and there was no turning back. The night was just beginning, and the true horrors were yet to come.
Night after night, the teenagers returned to the cemetery, drawn back to the circle of secrets. Each game brought with it a new wave of terror. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, worming their way into their thoughts, their dreams. The air crackled with unseen energy, and the shadows seemed to twist and contort, taking on menacing shapes. Fear, once a flicker, now burned bright within them, threatening to consume them entirely. Jake, always the skeptic, felt a shiver of doubt creep up his spine. He had never believed in the supernatural, always dismissing ghost stories and urban legends as mere fabrications. But tonight, something was different. The air was thick with an unexplainable tension, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. Jake's logical mind struggled to find a rational explanation, but the creeping sensation of dread was undeniable. But it was too late to turn back. The moment he and his friends had decided to play the mysterious game, they had crossed a threshold. There was no escaping the grip of the unknown forces they had unwittingly unleashed. The rules of the game were simple, yet the consequences were anything but. Each move they made seemed to draw them deeper into a web of secrets and lies, binding them tighter with every passing second. The game had a hold on them now. It was as if an invisible hand was guiding their actions, pushing them towards revelations they were not prepared to face. The once familiar room now felt like a labyrinth of shadows, each corner hiding a new terror. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shapes on the walls, and the silence was punctuated by the occasional creak of the floorboards, as if the house itself was alive and watching. The whispers swirled around him, closing in like a vice. They were faint at first, barely audible over the pounding of his heart. But as the minutes ticked by, they grew louder, more insistent. It was as if the very walls were speaking, their voices a cacophony of sorrow and anger. Jake tried to shut them out, to focus on the task at hand, but the whispers were relentless, gnawing at his resolve.
He closed his eyes, bracing himself. Then, he heard it. A single voice, distinct from the rest, cutting through the noise like a knife. It was a voice he recognized, one that sent a chill down his spine. It was the voice of someone he had once trusted, someone who had betrayed him in the most unforgivable way. The memories came flooding back, each one more painful than the last. A voice, soft at first, then growing in intensity. It spoke of things long buried, secrets that Jake had hoped would never see the light of day. The voice recounted events with a chilling accuracy, each word a dagger to his heart. It was as if the game was peeling back the layers of his soul, exposing his deepest fears and regrets for all to see. It spoke of a betrayal, a secret buried deep. My blood ran cold. The voice revealed a truth that Jake had tried to forget, a moment of weakness that had haunted him for years. He had thought he could bury it, move on with his life, but the game had other plans. It was determined to make him face his past, no matter the cost. The voice spoke of my betrayal, an act of cowardice I had long tried to forget. It was a moment of weakness, a decision made in fear that had changed the course of my life. I had betrayed someone I loved, and the guilt had eaten away at me ever since. The game knew this, and it was using my darkest secret against me, forcing me to confront the person I had become. The game knew my truth. It had seen through the facade I had built, stripping away the lies and exposing the raw, unfiltered reality. There was no hiding from it, no escaping the judgment it brought. As the whispers grew louder, I realized that the only way to break free was to face my past head-on, to accept the consequences of my actions and seek redemption. The game had revealed my secret, but it was up to me to decide what to do with that knowledge.
Chloe, her face pale and drawn, could barely bring herself to speak.
The whispers had turned on me, taunting me with memories I longed to forget. They spoke of my deepest insecurities, my hidden fears. They whispered of a love lost, a pain that cut deep. Tears streamed down my face as the whispers chipped away at my sanity, leaving me raw and exposed.
The game was no longer a game, it was a nightmare come to life.
They were too far gone, consumed by the darkness that had ensnared them. I watched in horror as my friends, once so full of life, crumbled before my eyes. Narrator. Michael, desperate to break free from the game's grip, tried to convince the others to stop. But his pleas fell on deaf ears.
The game was a disease and it was slowly poisoning them all.